So it's 2020, and you may have noticed that everything kind of sucks. Far-right extremism is on the rise in many countries' governments. The polar ice caps are melting. The US has concentration camps at our border where ICE agents regularly abuse immigrants and their children. Oh, right, and we're all quarantined in our homes because of a deadly virus outbreak. So, yeah, it's a bad time. And unfortunately, if you are white, or a man, or straight, or have ever participated in capitalism, you are an eensy bit responsible for how bad things have gotten. Except for the virus thing. These are all really difficult experiences, and it's easy to feel guilty and hopeless, and that the only thing to do is curl up in a ball on the floor and wait for death. You may be curled up in a ball waiting for death right now. I know I am. And in these moments, the sentiment that comforted me the most came from a man named Albert Camus.
Albert Camus was an author and French-Algerian hottie who wrote several books and is often credited as the father of modern absurdism. Camus' life was touched by war and human suffering from the beginning. He was born in 1913 and lived in French-occupied Algeria with his mother after his father died in World War I. He wrote a lot of great fiction, but my personal favorite is a non-fiction essay, Neither Victims Nor Executioners. It's really short, like 75 pages. You can read it in one sitting.
Oh, man.
It was published in 1946, right when Europe was still reeling from the effects of World War II. He writes a lot about his experiences watching the world sink into a violent darkness. I think anyone reading it in modern day will find this book shockingly relatable.
The years we have just gone through have killed something in us, and that something is simply the old confidence man had in himself, which led him to believe that he could always elicit human reactions from another man if he spoke to him in the language of a common humanity. We have seen men lie, degrade, kill, deport, torture, and each time it was not possible to persuade them not to do these things because they were sure of themselves, and because one cannot appeal to an abstraction, i.e. the representative of an ideology.
In his books and essays, Camus tried to make sense of complex human questions like, why people bad? And what's the fucking point? And of course the classic, why shouldn't I just myself? So, gentle viewer, why shouldn't I just myself? Well, first of all, it's rude. I mean, some poor mailman's gonna find you and you're gonna seriously traumatize your pets. But there are, like, smart people reasons too. Whatever.
Okay, the myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was a character in Greek mythology who was cursed to push a boulder up a mountain only to have it fall back down over and over for eternity. Not unlike a minimum wage job, except he didn't have student loans, so when you think about it, he's doing pretty good. Camus used the myth of Sisyphus to express the absurdity of existence. I'm just rolling this boulder up this hill every day. There's no way out of it. It's just my lot in life, and any real understanding of the complexities of the universe are totally beyond my comprehension, so fuck it. Why should I continue to do this when it's hard and stupid?
There are so many questions, which is unfortunate because there aren't really any answers. Humanity cries out for meaning and is met with a cold, unfeeling silence. It's like a David Lynch movie.
You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life.
So maybe there are no answers. Maybe life is meaningless and the suffering we endure isn't part of a greater poetry. That's really hard for us because as humans we inherently hunger for meaning in our lives. That agony can lead to nihilism, and nihilism can lead to depression and suicide. And traumatizing your pets.
Camus didn't always see eye to eye with his contemporaries. In fact, existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre and Camus had somewhat of a public feud during the Cold War. Sartre took the side of the Soviet Union, while Camus refused to take a side, famously stating he was on the side of life, and that to revolt today means to revolt against war. He was critical of the Russian Revolution, though he acknowledged it was a police state and that revolution was sometimes necessary. He still held that a resistance must always keep its original values intact, or be doomed to become like their oppressors.
For existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre, the absurd was the end result of breaking down the human experience until it was basically meaningless and thus absurd, but not for Camus. For Camus, absurdity is the beginning of the equation, not the end. He believed life is essentially absurd from the start, and living life as if it has meaning, even though it doesn't, is to live defiantly in the face of an unfeeling universe.
The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion.
That act of rebellion creates meaning in a meaningless world, and that is a life worth leading.
And that is what got me off the floor.
This has been a very brief introduction to the work of philosopher and author Albert Camus. If you want an actual in-depth video about absurdism, please check out any of the real smart YouTubers that I have linked in the description and demand a video on the subject. If they refuse, just keep yelling. Subscribe to my Patreon.